Hey, welcome back. We're still working with Scott Kelby in the textbook, the Adobe Photoshop CC book for digital photographers. We are in chapter 7 on page 217. And as I was checking out my image to get ready to do step 13, I noticed a couple of areas that I felt were still too transparent that I didn't pick up on earlier. So what I've done is, or what I am doing, and I'm going to do it just real briefly so you can see it as well, is I've gotten, rather than going back and doing that step over again, I just picked up the clone stamp tool. And for those of you that have not used that in the past, it's like a brush in that you can you dictate the size of the brush that you're using, the opacity, and then you go into the image. So you can see that there are some transparent pixels there that I don't really like. I can do an Option or an Alt if you're on a PC, click, and that establishes my point, my start point. And then you'll see what happens is this area then picks up and paints over some of that transparent area. Oh, that's too light. I probably should actually work with a little bit smaller brush, but as usual I'm in a hurry, so I'm going to try and pick that up as well. Now this one I am going to get a little bit smaller brush because I feel like right around the base of that hand it might be a little tricky. Let's see how that is. Normally I try to get a little bit closer in. Her bracelet makes that a little bit more difficult. You want to pick up pixels that are near the point that you are attempting to clone to make sure that it looks as though it's a natural clone process to the extent that you're able to. The one disadvantage with a clone I feel is that if you're not careful, it starts to look very repetitive, like you've just copied and pasted, copied and pasted, copied and pasted, like right here. So you definitely want to take care of some of those areas and not allow that to happen. Not sure which would be less time consuming, if it would be just easier to go back and start over again. Maybe so. But again, don't really have the time this morning, so I'm going to try to get this fixed for you to use as an example tonight when you're in class. Now again, I probably would change that value a little bit. And it looks like this is too light down here as well. And you can see that I've even somehow managed to eliminate part of her bracelet, which that's going to make it more difficult yet, but we'll see how this works. Yeah, not so good. See, what happens is I'm picking up some of her skin when my brush goes over that and totally decimating her bracelet. Just a minute, I'm going to go back in history and get rid of what I've done thus far with a bracelet. And I will be back in just a moment because I'm going to work with a couple of other tools to see if I can make that a better cloning, maybe with the, I don't know, I'll experiment with it and I'll be back. Alright, I've definitely taken some liberties with her bracelet that trained Photoshop observer would be could easily detect. I've just either through the clone stamp tool, I did some copying and pasting, tried to use the pattern or the patch tool, but for the most part I copied and pasted pieces of it and put them into what seemed to me like a logical order. Now I do have this one, I don't remember which layer it is, that I wanted to rotate a little bit differently. And this is one of the ones that I just took a piece of it, copied and pasted it. To again give it a little bit better sense of what I thought was going on there. But yet, again, if you, as a trained Photoshop observer, you could definitely see this. And if I were going to do this for the for a professional, for a job, I guess, I would take a lot more time with this than I'm taking. But again, copied and pasted, use the transform tool to get it into the direction that I need to get it, and otherwise rebuilt the bracelet, which had I done the first step a little bit better, that wouldn't have been necessary. All right, so we are going to, again, try to get this just around a little bit. And then I'm going to get the move tool, kind of move it into spot here, and so you can see, again, how I worked to transform the bracelet. All right, I would also then move over here where you see some of, I again got too close to the edge in previous steps, so in using the clone stamp tool would also work to clone in some of these areas. And I'll be back in a minute after I get this arm done, and we'll move on to the next step. All right, so in my haste, or in a hasty manner, I have fixed her arm, but you'll see that right down in here there's a little light strip that needs to be fixed, as well as some of these transparencies on her legs. Again, just pointing these out as I go along, and I will be back after I get those fixed. All right, definitely could spend another couple of hours on that, but I'm not going to, so we can finish up this video. We're going to open the background image we want to use in the composite, so we are looking to do a file and open. And I think we want composite number 2. And then we're going to drag and drop our subject right into the background image. So we are going to get the move tool. Just going to click and drag this off to the side so we can see where I am here. And then we are going to get the move tool. We're going to click, drag, and drop her into this composite. All right. Kelby says it's easier if you have the application frame turned off and you can see at least part of both images on your screen. I just clicked and dragged that so that we could see both images at the same time. Now, we are going to do Command T, which is the free transform tool. And then we are going to resize her to fit better on the background. You can press Command 0 or on a PC Control 0 to get the control handles. Is that, yeah, 0. And I'm just going to bump this up a little bit. Get rid of my history. I'm holding down the Shift key to make sure that she's transformed proportionally. And then we're going to right-click inside the bounding box and choose Flip Horizontal. So if you're on a Mac, that's a command click. No, control click. Option click. Geez Louise. I'm sorry, it's control click if you're on a Mac. Brain fart. Okay, sorry about that. All right, and then we are going to, again, flip horizontal. And then you press return if you're happy with her size and her positioning. And then he takes one final step, it looks like. Now you can see her challenge. Her hair tone makes it look like she wasn't photographed in these surroundings. Plus she has a tiny white fringe around her outside edge, which is a dead giveaway that she was brought into this, or this was a composite. So first thing that we're going to get rid of is that thin white fringe around her. Then we'll deal with our color issue. To remove the fringe, we're going to go under the layer menu and under matting. And then choose defringe. And when the defringe dialog appears, you want to use one. Use 2 pixels for a higher megapixel image, but we're going to click use one with this and then click OK. And hopefully the majority of that fringe is gone. Photoshop basically replaces the outside edge pixels with a new set of pixels. That's a combination of the background that it's sitting on and the subject's edge. Photoshop is brilliant. All right, now here's a trick he stumbled upon years ago when making composites. This trick gives you more detail, brings back some of those lost wisps of hair by building up some pixels. It's going to sound really simple, and it is. You're going to just press Command J or Control J if you are on a PC. And that duplicates the layer. And that's it. Just duplicate your subject layer, and it has a building up effect of the around the edges of her. Suddenly it looks more defined, fills in some of the wispy, weaker areas. If for any reason it looks like too much at the top of the layers panel, just lower the opacity. I don't really think that looks like too much. And then next, you're going to merge this duplicate layer with the original subject layer by pressing Command E. And that did merge it. All right, now to tackle the fact that the color of our subject doesn't match the surroundings she was supposedly shot in. So we need a selection around our subject layer again. So do a command click on your subject layer's thumbnail. So you want to go up here to the thumbnail and do a command or control. You just want to see that little white box and do a click, and that clicks all the active pixels on that layer. Once the selection is in place, add a new blank layer by clicking on the Create a New Layer icon at the bottom of the Layers panel. Now look at your image and ask yourself, which color really stands out to me in this background? Here he sees brown, gray, and white, but the color that's really jumping out is the brownish gray in the floor. So get the eyedropper tool, which is I, and click it once on an area of brownish gray in the photo to make that exact brownish gray your foreground color is. So I'm clicking on the floor in the foreground. So he's about over here. Now fill that selection on your empty layer with this brownish gray color by pressing Option Delete, or if you're on a PC, Alt Backspace. So Option and Delete. And you can see immediately that that layer is filled with that color. Then deselect by pressing Command D. or Control D. Nice. To make this brownish gray area blend in, number 1, change the layer's blend mode from normal to color. So just the color shows through instead of being solid. Then 2, lower the opacity to the point where you see the color image start to emerge, but it has enough of the brownish gray tint so that it really looks like she was photographed there on location. For this image, he lowered the opacity of the brownish gray layer to 30%. I have mine to about 52%. Let's go back down to about 30. Let's see what. Wow, that works really nicely. Now press Command E once more to merge this brownish gray layer with the subject's layer below it. And there you go. What a great process this has been. Composite looks really quite nice. The bracelet is there. Her outer edges are there as intended. Good job, Mr. Kelby. All right, we're going to save this and I will be back. Actually, I'll see you tonight in class.